Welcome to An Aries and Pisces Walk Into a Coffee Shop, the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bridget, she, her.
And I'm Tiffany, she, her. This is a podcast where two friends let go of perfectionism and talk unedited.
Hello.
Hello.
I like your shirt a lot. It's giving me Beetlejuice vibes, and I was gonna say that to you, and I forgot, but now I remembered.
Thank you. That's why I bought it.
Oh,
Years ago, I was like, well, what's been happening? I love October. I love Halloween. I am not good at a deadline. I struggle so hard with coming up with a costume in a timely manner. And so for the last handful of years pre-pandemic, what I had started doing is like, what clothes can I buy and make into a costume? Because then I was like, I would rewear the clothes and I didn't feel like a waste. And it also was easier somehow to like throw together a costume. And if I thought about it that way. And so it was 2019, had to have been. Yeah, 2019. I was like, I'm going to do a Beetlejuice costume because I had that green hair at the time. And I was like, I have green hair. This is perfect. And my costume was basically just makeup, but I was just like, what outfit can I buy that I'll wear again that has Beetlejuice vibes? And I found this shirt and I was like, exactly what I wanted. And then I just like bought, that's when I got my ripped up pair of jeans because I never bought distressed jeans before, but I was like curious about it. And I found this black pair that was like super distressed. And I was just like, I normally wouldn't buy these, but like Beetlejuice crawled out of the ground. I feel like this is the vibe. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just wore jeans in this shirt and then painted my face and like glued moss on me, like Beetlejuice with my green bob. And I was just like, done.
I love it. I love it. I was just talking to Luke on Sunday, I think it was, about how much I miss like Halloween and having Halloween parties to go to and Halloween things to do. And we haven't done that in such a long time, and I miss it.
Yeah, I always really love that time. And unfortunately, my October was mostly spent horizontal, feeling under the weather. So I added in just binge watching horror movies, which I think we talked about. And I just had that thought because there was a couple of things I was going to go to and I was going to like dress up to go to them. Not necessarily like in a full costume, but like I have bits and bobs around that I can like make something. And like I like makeup, so I can transform. And then I was sick, so I like had to cancel a bunch of things that I was planning on going to and like dressed up. And I was just like, well, that's just this year, I guess. That's what this autumn's going to be like, and I'm trying to be okay with it. But it's sad for me.
That is sad. That was sad for you as well. Bits and bobs just have me cracking up internally. I don't know why. Bits and bobs. And you said what you've been doing like this October, and I was like, well, wait a second. But then I realized like, oh my God, we are at the end of October already.
That's what happened to me yesterday.
What?
That's why I know that.
I'm like, what did I do this October? I ate way too many candy corn.
Oh, well, I mean,
That's
yeah,
how
if you
I've
like candy corn,
celebrated.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Is in October, is eat too many of them.
But it's just I was going to say like a perilous relationship. Perilous is not the right word. I eat too many of them and then I feel sick, but then I keep wanting to eat more and then I just feel worse than when I began.
Yeah. I luckily never really cared for candy corn, so it doesn't hurt me like that.
It hurts
and I think
me like
I'm
that.
having a memory that don't they have candy corn that's different flavors now? Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, I have no idea.
I wonder if I'm making that up.
Like they might have some that have that green color in them. Or maybe like a chocolate.
Maybe. I don't have a clear memory, but I have this weird feeling that there was a time where I had candy corn that was very suspicious because it was like weird flavors. Like, you know those like weird jelly beans
Yes.
where they're like crazy
Yeah.
flavors? I feel like there was a candy corn version of that.
If there was, I would not be interested in it because
You need the classic.
Yes, for me it's candy corn, and I don't want anything candy corn flavored. I don't want the candy corn in something.
Well, you need
I
the
don't. It
texture,
is just it's just
right?
the straight fucking candy corn. I'm also this way about Nutella, but I have an unhealthy relationship with Nutella that bleeds over, kind of blends in with like candy corn and Oreos. But the Nutella, like
Oreos.
I don't want a Nutella flavored thing. I don't want a Nutella coffee. I don't want a Nutella dessert. I want the giant jar of it and the biggest spoon I've got. And I want to eat it until I'm sick. And I want that. I don't
That,
want that. I don't want that. But
you do. A part of you really does. But the more logical, hey, we have a whole body we have to take care of part that knows it makes you feel bad,
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
No, this makes a lot of sense to me, and it makes me think of I'm going to tell on myself again. So, you know how I strongly suspect there's some ADHD stuff going on, and then I talk myself out of it all the time?
Uh-huh.
One of the things that I used to use very consistently to be like, yeah, but I don't have it because this was that a lot of the people I talked to in the media that I saw of people sharing their experiences talked about like comfort foods as like a hyperfixation where it's like, I have to have this thing. That's just what it needs to be or else. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. Like, I'm not a picky eater. I'll eat whatever. Like, I don't have like fixations. And then the seed was planted. And over time, I was like, yeah, bitch, you do. You have so many. And what kind of like really like opened my eyes to it is I was talking to my sister, who I also strongly suspect has some of the similar things that I do. Yay, families, genetics. And her daughter was making fun of her, being like, oh, mom has to eat da 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 every single morning. And my sister's just like, yeah, and like was going on about like what like she can't do a day if she doesn't have like her comfort hyperfixation food. And it's like a very specific brand. It's a very specific thing that she does. And as she was talking, I started getting this like tingle where I'm like, oh, you're like that. Now, there are days where I don't have to. It's not quite as strong, but she has a lot of more day-to-day stress. So it makes sense that it's a little bit more pronounced. But I was like, I do have those. And one of my that I kind of forgot about, Oreos. I'd eat them until, because like before, like a lot of my comfort and fixation things didn't make me sick, or it wasn't like a detriment in any way. And I wasn't overly stressed about it. So it didn't occur to me. And then like I remembered I could go through so many Oreos so fast. And why I forgot is because I stopped buying them so frequently. Because I was like, if they are here, then I'm going to make myself sick on them. And then one time I bought these Madeline, you know, Madeline cookies.
It sounds familiar, but does it have chocolate?
They can, but they're a French soft
like
cookie, and yeah, they're like a shell shaped but oval, but they have like grooves in them, so they kind of like puff up in the middle, and they look like seashells a little bit, but they're long. And they don't have like a strong flavor, but the texture is incredible, and it's like very like chewy and like buttery because French. And sometimes they dip them in chocolate. And so those, and then there's a different version where it's like the same type of cookie mix, but then they put a brownie on the bottom and cook them together. And I can't keep those in the house. They're the same thing as the Oreos. If they are here, I just, like, I can't, it's all I think about all day.
Yeah.
Like, I will think about it all day about eating one.
Yeah.
And then when I go to eat one, I'm like, well, I'm going to have two. And then sometimes I eat three. And if
Yeah.
I'm really, I want to eat five. But they're like dense. Like, you do not need five. And there's so much sugar.
Mm.
Anyway, and I'm the same way with Oreos.
Yeah. Same. The candy corn that I had. So a few years ago, Target carried this organic brand of candy, and they had the candy corn. And it was a big bag of little individual bags. And at first I was like, oh, I don't want this. Like, I don't need like individual wrappers. That's a lot of extra waste. But I really wanted the organic candy corn. So I got it. And then I realized, oh, this is actually how I should be presented with all snacks of this nature.
Oh, because it
Because
just
then
does
it's
it
just,
for you.
right, it's in the little pack. And if I can somehow just be like one pack, then I'm kind of okay.
It's easier to do.
Yeah, but this time around, I did for myself, I put the bag of candy corn in the cupboard behind all of my other stuff so I could not see it.
Ooh.
And so that was somewhat helpful.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like what I just recently did with some social media apps where I'm just like, maybe we just don't have them on the screen that opens right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar thing. It doesn't stop me from then going to go look at it all the time, but I definitely am doing it less compulsively because it's a lot more steps.
Yeah, I did that with myself with Instagram. I removed it from my screen, so the only way I can get to it is scrolling all the way to my right-hand screen where all the apps are, and then I have to pull the thing down, and then I have to type it in because I went into the settings so that it won't ever show up if I just like do a search on my phone. It won't, like, I literally, that's the only way I can get to it. Because I had removed it from my home screen. However, I could always just drag down and type it in the search bar and it's just right there.
Our brains are smart.
It was in my like recently used apps. So yeah, I took all of those privileges for it away. And so it's a pain in the ass to go get into it. And I close out of it every time I'm done so that I have to go back that way to get it. But yeah, that's what I tried to do with the candy corn, and it helped. It helped, but I, would have I pour a handful of it and I put it in my pocket, straight like Napoleon Dynamite, like with the tots vibes. I just have a pocket full of candy corn, and then I found myself panicking the one day because I was thinking, well, oh my God, what if I forget a candy corn in my pocket? And I wash this and then the candy goes through the wash and then it's all a big mess. And I'm like, what a fucking problem to be worrying about.
Yeah, that sounds relatable. Why are we like this?
Why are we like this? And then the other day I realized I was almost all the way through the bag of candy corn. And I was realizing that it wasn't even like, oh, I really want candy corn. I really want to eat it. It was just like, it's here and I'm going to eat it because it's here. And so I dumped it in the trash. I can't just throw something away. If I throw a bag of candy corn away, there's this likely that I'll go in there and get it because it's still contained within the bag.
Yeah.
So I have to dump the thing out, and I dumped it out because I was like, this isn't serving me anymore. I ate almost the whole entire bag, but I was proud of myself.
Yeah, that's huge. And you read my mind because I was about to ask you about this fine line thing that I've been thinking about where, okay, eating it until you are sick, obviously not great because then you feel sick. There's like a negative consequence. And then I was trying to find for my own self like this in between of allowing myself to have that joy guilt-free and also not making myself sick. And then I was realizing basically what you said, where there were times where I had been thinking about eating it all day, and then I did it and it didn't do anything because I wasn't like really consuming it mindfully. It was just kind of, well, mindless, I guess, of just, I don't know if compulsion's the right word, but it felt like empty somehow. And then what I had been trying to do, I don't know how you could do this with candy corn, I'm not sure. But for me, like the Madeline cookie thing, sometimes I still buy them. And basically the rule is I don't multitask when I'm eating them. So like I'm not watching something or working or reading when I'm having that snack. It's like my mindfulness snack where I like sit down with it and like really think about what I'm doing so that I can let myself enjoy things.
Yes.
And that's very on the forefront of my mind, because I don't know if you listened to the new episode of We Can Do Hard Things yet. Have you, with Martha Beck about Amanda? So Martha Beck has been on that podcast a couple of times before. And I think one of the episodes was about joy. And this episode, she dives deep with Amanda and basically does like a therapy session in pod with Amanda, because she cannot relax, doesn't allow herself any breaks to be silly or playful. It's just work, 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 go, go, go. And she wants everyone else around her to be the same way. So she's like doing that to herself and then getting resentful when other people aren't also doing that. So that's what they were working on. And a lot of it was around like parts work and asking yourself a lot of questions about like, how is that serving you or not serving you? And like getting out of your logical brain and more into your body and emotional stuff. And so I was thinking about that. Well, you know, I have been thinking about all of that a lot. And so it was really nice to like listen to someone else's process and kind of come up with a bunch of different ways to think about it, because I also get stuck in like language logical things. And what I'm realizing is that's so great and so frustrating, because it doesn't help you change or feel different. Like logically, I can hide the Instagram app. I can logically limit how much of that sugar I'm ingesting at one time so I don't make myself sick. And yet it's just still kind of hollow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to have to put that episode on my queue to listen to. And yeah, I really like the mindful eating. That's something that I've been working with for a long time now, where that is a rule of mine, that I don't eat if I'm doing something else. And I have like some exceptions to that. Like sometimes breakfast is hard for me to eat, but I know that I need to eat it, otherwise I'm gonna pass out.
Yeah.
So I do allow myself to bring that up here and have it on my desk so that I can bite it while I'm doing something. Otherwise, I might not be able to actually eat it.
Yeah.
But with everything else, I try to do that, because there was one point in college that I remembered sitting at my desk in my room in my apartment and just like scarfing down lunch while I was doing something else. And I don't remember why I had this thought or why that's when I realized it, but I do remember that moment of like, this isn't good for me. Like this isn't, and I'm not saying that I have practiced it since then, but I do remember that being like a moment where I really realized it.
Sure.
But I don't think that I was really more mindfully paying attention to it until like more recently. But with that candy corn, I think I would let it slide sometimes, because I like all the logical stuff in my brain, right, of saying you can eat this amount of candy corn and still feel pretty okay.
Yeah.
But then something about me is like, well, I don't want to stop. I want more. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep going. And so then I would have a third handful. And at that point, it was the third handful while I'm doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
And
Oreos for me.
yeah. And
Third
this,
handful of Oreos.
yeah. And another thing that I practiced was putting food into containers that I like to eat them out of. So chips, for example, if I'm going to have chips as a snack, I'm going to put them in a bowl. I'm not eating them straight out of the bag because then I can only eat what's in the bowl. And I don't often eat something and watch like media or like from our last episode.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of things, but when I do, I like to be very mindful. I like to be watching it. If I'm watching the thing, I'm watching the thing. But if there was, like, for example, if I was really hungry and wanted a snack, I would put it in a bowl. So I knew how much I was eating, even though I wasn't paying attention to it.
Yeah, so you're not mindlessly eating something and then feeling sick and not even like, because that's always like the problem for me is that I think a lot of my body signals are so delayed that when I'm like, oh, I'm sick, I'm like real sick. Because I think like all of like the subtle cues leading up to are just like not registering. And I mean, the same with like forgetting to eat. Like by the time I'd remember to eat, it was because I was in dire straits on the verge of like wooziness or just like, and a lot of times now in hindsight, I'm able to figure out like panic because like I wouldn't notice I was feeling sick until my body started feeling anxious about it. And then I just thought I was like it was just anxiety. And then I had to realize, oh, that was also like my emergency light. Just like, hey, you haven't eaten in a reasonable time frame. You're feeling sick. And it just took me so long. And like the same thing with like indulging in something that too much sugar, or caffeine. I used to be bad about caffeine too, where all the subtle cues I would like skip over until I was like deep in the racing heart sweating. And I'm just like, oh, I overdid it. Whoops.
Whoopsie.
Again.
Whoops. Whoops. That's really interesting to me to hear you talk about it like that, because with mine, I get lightheaded pretty easily, and that's been a problem for me as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have anxiety around making sure that I eat often and always making sure that I have food with me or readily available because I am afraid of feeling lightheaded and passing out. And I do try to like do that. And so, but then sometimes it's hard for me to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'm like, well, I feel like I have eaten and I've eaten enough and I've eaten at the right at the right intervals. Why am I feeling like this? And
Oh, mm-hmm.
I
Well, because bodies aren't machines. I had to learn.
and
So sometimes I
I
need different things on different days. It's an
oh
adventure.
gosh. Um
Uh-huh.
yeah, and another thing that I realized a few years ago now was that sometimes when I'm feeling lightheaded, it's not necessarily because I need food, it's maybe
Mm-hmm.
because of anxiety or
Yeah.
fear. And that
Mm-hmm.
was really interesting to me. And so sometimes I'm very confused about what I need and when.
Uh-huh.
And that's hard.
It is. And it's so funny that it sounds like we had very similar things, but kind of opposite. So,
Mm-hmm.
because lightheadedness, wooziness, just like generally feeling out of sorts, often was a symptom of both not having eaten enough or eaten too much of something like sugar or caffeine, and also being anxious about something. And I grew up assuming it was my anxiety all the time.
Mm.
And it took me an embarrassingly long time to be like, maybe this is physical sometimes. But it really, I just always assumed every time it happened, it was like my anxiety out of control and I had no recourse. Like I was just like, well, I guess this is just how I live. And then I mean, I was fully adult, I think, when I figured out sometimes you just need to have a snack at a regular time before you get to that point, and then that point never happens. And it sounds like you did it where you're like, oh, I just need to have snacks all the time, and then I'll be okay because this physical thing will be taken care of. Not realizing that anxiety can also
Right, because I'm like,
feel bad.
why is it still happening? Like I'm
Having a body is a trip.
Oh,
Oh,
it is.
goodness gracious.
Yeah, and this is, I don't know if it feels particularly timely because recently I've been struggling a lot with what I'm saying is regulating my blood sugar, but I don't know. I've been feeling lightheaded a lot lately, and it's been really challenging. And I did almost actually pass out on Sunday night, which was not great. But my first thing was like, get me food. I don't know what else to do. I'm gonna drink juice. Like I don't. And then I just stuffed myself with food and hoped that I would feel better. I did feel better eventually, but then it was right before bedtime, and I typically don't eat after dinner. And so then I had just like stuffed myself with food and had to go right to bed, and like then that felt awful to me.
Yeah. It's so confusing having a body because there's no right answer. So, for example, a lot of studies say that you shouldn't eat right before bed because it disrupts you going to sleep and like getting a good night's rest. But then I was having a big struggle for a while in the morning of feeling deathly ill. Just like I would wake up feeling nauseous and woozy and just weird and like so sick that I couldn't eat, but I had to eat. And then it was a whole thing. And I was talking to my acupuncturist about it. And she's like, I think you should snack before bed. This might be like a blood sugar thing where you've gone so long without eating that when you wake up, your body's in a crisis mode, which makes it hard to get the nutrients you need. She's like, try snacking before bed. I'll be damned if that didn't work. I like ever since I started snacking before bed, and granted, it's not stuffing yourself with food, it's not a full meal, but like everything says like don't eat before bed, and I always had trouble going to bed, so I was like, okay, well I won't, but it's making my mornings miserable. And like, yeah, I started snacking right before bed, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a morning person, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. Having a body's hard and there are no right answers.
There are no right answers. Do you want to hear something? I used to snack in the evenings, and at some point, and I think that I had that same kind of thought that because in the morning when I wake up, it is like I need to put nutrition in my body pretty soon after I wake up. I can't really do much otherwise. I'm feeling sick and nauseous. But right, I can't eat. I can't eat like chew a meal. And that's where my smoothies came into play.
Right.
That I was like, oh, well, I need something to at least tide me over to the point where I can eat a thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where that came in. But I had also thought that like, oh, well, I do need to eat in the evening and then it won't be as bad in the morning. And I was working with I think a naturopathic doctor at the time, and he was suggesting to eat like a snack before bed. A healthy snack, right?
Yeah.
Like not a fucking bag of candy corn. So I was doing that, but then I found that in the mornings I felt worse. I felt even worse, like even more like I was going to pass out, like even more off balance. And so I decided to stop eating after dinner entirely. This happened over a big period of time,
Right.
to what I do now. But I found that if I don't eat after dinner, and I eat dinner probably around like 6-ish, let's say 6-ish, I go to bed around 10-ish, I get up around 7:15. And that is like, I feel better in the mornings when I don't eat before bed for some reason. And I don't know if it's that thing that people talk about that's like intermittent fasting.
Oh, I don't know anything about. Well, I know what you're saying. I've never looked into it to know a thing about it. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
I don't know much about it, but when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, kind of. If I don't eat from like 6 to 7, that's like 11 hours, right? That's almost, or that's more than that. 7 to 7 would be 12. All right, so there's 12 hours where I'm not eating ish.
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't do that during the day, and I have no desire to. But I think that for some reason it works really well for me overnight. For whatever reason, I don't fucking know. It doesn't make sense to my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming someone with some kind of knowledge would be able to make an argument for why that works. But that's why having a body is hard, because not every body is the same. So what, like, that works great for you, but someone else could try that and it just be a terrible time.
Like, Luke doesn't eat until lunchtime.
That is wild to me. That's a
And
panic
I
attack.
can't. Yeah, he does eat. He eats snacks. He's usually like eating snacks when I'm going to bed. But then he doesn't go to bed till like 12, between 12 and 2, and he gets up at the same time as me. But then he doesn't eat until lunch, and he likes it that way. I would keel over and die.
I don't think I would be good at that. And you know what part of it is? Because I really, really love the ritual of having a tea or a coffee in the morning.
Oh, he does that. He has coffee.
Well, this is my problem. If I do that without actual food, panic attack.
Yeah.
I can't just have caffeine.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to figure that out too. But I have to eat something more substantial than a snack before my caffeine. Otherwise, I get real sick. Not always panic attack, but like those levels of like, oh, like something bad. It's either a panic attack or like the dread leading right up to one. And so I hate eating in the mornings, but I have had to figure out a system that works so that I can get food in at a decently early time so I can get to my comfort ritual, which I know I could technically have something non-caffeinated, but it just doesn't hit the same. Because like I like herbal teas, but like there's something about like a black tea or like I've tried to do the decaf coffee, and that helps some. Well, hello, a visitor.
Hi, Ingrid.
But yeah, even then, I don't know if it's like the acidity of. Oh, we don't. So sorry. She didn't want to be touched like that. She just, all her limbs started going everywhere. She's like, yeah, I wanted to be involved, but like not in the way that you're doing it. Are you gonna sit down? She's being very bizarre and like maniacally licking my velvet pants.
Okay.
Very strange behavior. Is that nice?
What color are your velvet pants?
They're kind of like a mauve.
I was gonna say, are they purple?
Close, yeah.
Okay.
Was that your psychic hit?
I don't know. I was gonna ask if she was licking your purple velvet pants, and I said in my brain to myself, that makes sense that she would want to do that.
Oh,
for some reason.
You're understood. She's been a very good familiar for me the last couple of weeks while I've been not doing so hot. Like constantly in my face and on my body and purring up a storm. It's been so good.
Good. Zero does that, and we call him Nurse Lovey. Like he'll
Oh,
snug. Like if I'm sick
sweet.
and laying in bed, I call him Nurse Lovey.
Oh, he's so good. So pure. I wonder if cats think it's hard to have a body or if they're fine being incarnated.
Hmm. I don't know.
Can you tell me?
I just watched a YouTube video that this cat, they've been training this cat with those things with the buttons that say different words.
Mm-hmm.
And the particular video that YouTube fed me was
Sure.
that the cat said something, I don't know if they called it like alarming or whatever, but I guess that the cat had a procedure done for his mouth, something. And at this point, he shouldn't have any pain. He should be all like done. But he did the buttons that said like ouch and head. And
Mm.
he was like going to take him back to the vet because like, oh, this shouldn't be bothering him. But then I was like, just the thought of that this man is communicating with his cat and the cat knows what buttons to push and what means. I'm blown away. I'm like, how much can they not communicate with us because we haven't figured it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Like, what are you thinking about? What might be capable, or just like what would they be telling us? Where's
uh
your brain go?
probably both, but one of my biggest things is that I can't stand if an animal's hurt.
Mm-hmm. And
And
they're so
especially
good
because
at not.
they can't tell you, right? Like they can't, and they really can't tell you like what's going on. So especially with all of the problems that we've had with Chloe,
Yeah.
or and the stresses, and I just wish that she could just tell me.
Right, because it's always like and especially like animals, it's like you have to like, there's a lot of guesswork because of behavioral clues, or there's so many types of animals that instinctually they hide not feeling well
Mm-hmm.
or being injured, which makes good sense if you're in the wild, like you don't want to appear
Mm-hmm.
weak. Um, but even like, what was my example that just flew out of my head? I'm looking at Ingrid. It had to do with her. Oh, when we lived in that ranch style apartment, she was so stressed out about the visiting cat that used to hang out on the patio that I never saw. But
Mm-hmm.
she was like causing such chaos at that
Mm-hmm.
window. And I just couldn't figure out like what her deal was. She was just knocking stuff over and peeing on the floor. And like she busted through the screen once. It was just maniacal behavior. And I could not figure it out for the longest time. And here I found out this neighborhood cat was hanging out there and she was upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we went months not understanding like each other. And I'm like, if she would have been able to just be like, look, there's this ruffian out there and I'm real upset about it.
Yeah.
It's so much less heartache.
Yeah.
Huh, you hated that cat. Not a fan.
Chloe hates all cats.
Oh, poor Chloe.
Or Lovey.
Oh, yeah. Poor Luffy. Oh, so rough.
It is rough. You were telling me about how you don't like decaf or non-caffeinated teas, and before this cat segue, and that made me not sad, but like also, I used to be the person drinking like way too much caffeine and having health problems. To now, I can't even drink a full cup of decaf
See, that's
coffee,
like the
and
decaf.
I'm like, that's too much caffeine.
Yeah, the decaf still has caffeine, which is why I don't know, sometimes I think about switching to it. And it's not that I don't like decaf. What it is that I like choices.
Mm.
So I like coffee so much that I like the different types of blends. And decaf, it's like
decaf.
This
right?
is it.
Do you have
and
decaf?
there's 2
Yeah,
brands. There's 2 brands and
right.
they're just decaf. And so there's no flavor notes. It's just coffee, which is fine. But like when I buy coffee, I'm like looking for the flavor notes and I'm like, ooh, dried fig. Like, yeah, I want that. But I also want this one that says bright and floral. I want that for a different day. And like decaf ones don't come with flavor notes like that.
I know.
And then herbal teas, I love herbal teas, but not in the morning. I want like a black tea. And the same
like
thing with
a fucking chai.
Yeah. Or like an Earl Grey, or like if I'm going to do like my, herbal blends and my peppermint and stuff, like it's after a meal, it's later at night. Like it's just a different thing. It's a different ritual.
I feel ya. I feel ya. I've been on the hunt for an herbal chai because I just can't live without chai, and I also apparently can't live with caffeine. So
Yeah.
I did find one that is really good that I really like, but I think I did the thing where I drank myself enough of it and I don't want it anymore.
Gotcha.
Because that'll happen to me. I'll have the same thing for a length of time and I will fucking love it. And then
it's done.
And then the next day I'm like, well, how did I drink this for 3 years straight?
There's so many TikToks about that phenomenon. I can't remember what someone was calling it though, where it was like giving your brain like the hit of the happy chemicals and then it just like stops working and you're like, well, now I have to find something else.
Yeah, and it's fucking impossible with breakfast food. I've had this like so much. I used to eat overnight oats.
Oh yeah, I remember because you got
time.
me turned on to those. I did that for a long time too.
I can't fucking stand them anymore. And I've tried to introduce them back in just occasionally.
Yeah.
But I just can't. There was one time where I was making this like apple crumble oat bake thing for breakfast. And then I was also making my own yogurt.
Oh, right.
And I would have those together. And I had that forever. And now I just fucking can't.
Oh,
and
no.
now I'm in a like, oh my god, what's next for breakfast phase, and it's hard to choose because then for a while I was on bagels and cream cheese for years, and then that shifted into like toast and cream cheese, and now it's shifted into toast and almond butter, but it's not doing it.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's not giving you the same happy feels.
But so I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next.
It's just a forever exploration of how to take care of this thing. I'm trying to be happier about it, the being incarnated bit. And I'm finding it hard to do that. I think it's just frustration. Because I've just been, it's that cycle of being like, oh, I'm tired and exhausted. And so I'm irritable and frustrated. And so then like trying to find things about having a body to be happy about, even though there is a lot, has just been harder to access lately. And I think a big part of that is I've been looking forward to October all year, and now it's here, and I've just been having the real rough time. And so it feels like a letdown where I was like all year being like, it's okay, October's coming. And then October came, and then I didn't get to it. Oh, wow. Oh, that hit me real hard.
I heard.
God. Oh, I didn't know how true that was. Oh, okay. My mood is making a lot more sense. Yeah, I've been looking forward to October all year thinking I'll feel better when October's here. And then I felt worse. And I was like, the fuck? Well, now what? Oh no.
Oh no.
And I'm saying that looking out my window at these beautiful honey locust trees that are turning yellow. And I have a vivid memory of telling you, I can't wait till the honey locust trees turn yellow. And I just today realized that they have been turning yellow. And I missed it because I was like so in a fog. I mean, I'm figuring it out now. I'm enjoying it now. But it also made me kind of sad where I was like, I've been looking forward to that since I moved here. So for months, being excited. And then, like, I remember noticing the first time I saw a couple of yellow leaves. And then there was like, I've just been in such a fog for the last couple of weeks that I just like missed the brilliance happen and just like realized, man, time is weird.
Time is weird. Welcome to it, though. Maybe it wasn't October that you needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my... I'm forever trying to find the balance between putting things in the future to look forward to and then not being devastated when they don't happen or don't work out exactly the way I had hoped.
Yes.
And that is a struggle for me because looking to the future is often anxiety producing. So I've been working so hard at being excited about the future. But then I set myself up like this, where I'm like getting through all of this time being like, well, October will be it. And then when October's not, I really flounder. And I'm like, well, this was what it was supposed to like be culminating to. And like, this was supposed to get me through all of winter. Well, now what? Like, I put a lot of pressure on things. So finding the balance.
I'm hearing that
between them.
Yeah.
Is difficult.
That's also what I'm working on, is learning how to look forward to things. And yeah, it's a practice.
Yeah. It sure is. Like anything, just a forever practice. I think I'm going through another round of surrendering to the idea that it's all a practice and a process forever. I think I got stuck in the hoping for a destination where I'm just like healed and feeling better. And I'm going through another round of grief that's not how life works. And it's been a time. Yeah, it's been a time to have to go through another go around with that.
On the spiral.
Yep.
Here we go. Here we go.
Have you ever seen that aerial thing that is a spiral? So, sorry,
I think that you maybe have sent me something with that before. Somebody
probably
on one, I think.
Yes. So one of those aerial arts where they're doing aerial movement on what looks like a metal coil that spins at the same time that they're maneuvering on it. And I think about that a lot.
That's what we're on?
Yeah, because when you're watching it looks so impossible and confusing.
Yeah.
And when I'm watching it, I feel very seen. I'm just like, because the people that I'm watching doing it are really talented at it. So they look like confident and at ease and beautiful. And I think that's like what I want to feel. But most of the time, I feel a lot less. I'm wondering what the videos of people learning that look like. Because I feel...
Yes. I was just thinking the same thing. And then also the thing that I know that you've said out of your mouth before in one of these conversations about that people are doing it nervous and scared and worried. And I was thinking about this myself the other day, that the ways that I'm afraid that I'm being perceived by certain people. But then I took myself a minute and I said, wait a second, how am I perceiving those people?
Mm,
And I think it's that, right? Like that
right.
you could be like, oh, well, I want to feel confident and calm and grounded and stable and all of these things like that person does in that video. However, we don't know how that
Mm,
person felt in that video, right? It's just our
yeah.
perception of it.
They could have been very achy or bruised or having menstrual cramps or feeling like they're about to slip off at any moment,
Right.
but they're just so
But that was
practiced.
right. Maybe that was the time that they got it, or it looked the
Mm-hmm.
best, or we don't know.
Yeah, yesterday they could have slid right off there.
Yeah. Just
Oh, thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Let's sign off with that.
Okay.